Let's now understand a bit of the pricing components of a Snowflake instance, and then when you plan to use Snowflake, you can have a better idea of in which parts you're going to be charged and how to build a cost planning on Snowflake. But that's very simple, that's not a big deal, okay? So we have three main components right now, and let's start with the least important, which is the cloud layer service. If you remember in the architecture lesson, we knew that we got to know that there is a cloud layer in it, and then you need to pay for that. But you know that's actually usually less than 5% of the total cost usually. So if it's more than that, you're having a problem with your metadata probably, and someone is querying a lot of metadata and creating complex queries with metadata. That's basically it, okay? And this cost is totally handled, and you can see it's totally handled by Snowflake, and then you can see on your Snowflake instance, okay? And the second most important cost is basically the virtual warehouses, which is not the second, this is the most important cost, because this is the biggest cost you might have, okay? The processing power is charged in Snowflake credits. We're gonna see in the Snowflake web page, in this web page here, how is it charged better. But basically it's charged by credit, and each credit is charged per hour, right? So the minimum amount billed is one minute. So it means that if you run a query for 10 seconds and then you drop or you delete or you stop your warehouse, you're going to be charged for 1 minute. So here starts a bit of thinking on the strategy. So never do this kind of things, as I mentioned. Never run a query for 10 seconds and stop. So plan your queries, plan your processing, and don't stop the warehouses unless needed. Also, warehouses store some cache within the cloud layer, and you can reuse the cache if the queries share the same structure. Okay, so but this is another thing. So the price depends also on the warehouse size, and of course in the region and cloud provider you are, right? This is the virtual warehouse costs, and then we have storage costs. As we know, storage is not a big deal currently, because of especially the object-oriented storage, which Snowflake also takes advantage of. They are really reduced, but in Snowflake, how they are charged? They are charged monthly, in a monthly bill, and this charge is actually average of the storage you used. This is because, during the processes, you insert data, you delete data, you create intermediate tables, do the processing, save a final transformation, and then sometimes you even delete the intermediate tables, and then that's why you actually end up paying an average, right? So the costs are actually calculated after the compression, as I explained in the previous video, after the compression, which can be usually between 10 to 30% of the data. If you uploaded a file that's 1 GB of Parquet data from S3 bucket to Snowflake, it can end up being only 700 MB. So the cost is after the compression. This is also one of the reasons that could be a good idea to have Snowflake as your data lake, saving your raw data itself, right? And for the storage, we have basically two prices, the on-demand and the planned capacity. Planned capacity is when you are using Snowflake for a while and you know that your average storage consumption is 5 terabytes, and then you can every month pay in advance 5 terabytes, and then they charge you less. We're gonna see the prices there. And on demand is the regular way that we're used to. You pay as you go, as you use, but of course you pay a higher price. So let's take a look in this link here, the pricing link. So it's open here. Let me go to the top and let me reduce my face a bit here. And here in the Snowflake pricing, we have a pricing guide that you can actually download a more comprehensive explanation on that, right? And basically what we have here is the pricing per instance type. And well, for instance type, we're gonna go over in another video. but basically we have 4 instance types. The 3 first are the main used ones, and they're the ones we can see the price: standard, enterprise, and business critical, right? And basically you can see that, for example, in the platform, I think using here changing just the platform in the same region, it doesn't change much. Yeah, it doesn't change much, but we know that the prices change across the regions, right? So for example, yeah, this is what we have for the credit usage here. We pay $3 per credit usage per hour, basically. Okay, so 1 credit is 1 hour of query processing. And then, yeah, for business critical, we pay another amount. But let's change here then the region. Let's go for Frankfurt. So Frankfurt, which is the region I am in, I would be paying a different price, a higher price, because the cloud region here is more expensive. I know I'm from Brazil, so I know that in São Paulo, it's the Brazilian region of AWS, it's even more expensive. So those are the prices that you would be paying there. So, and here we can see how much it would cost each credit for the virtual warehouse, for the processing. And on the bottom, we can see also how much we would pay on the storage costs. Okay. And for example, as I mentioned before, on demand, if you're paying as you're using, you would pay $74 per terabyte per month in this area. But if you are already able to decide on a capacity storage, you would be paying $40.50 per terabyte per month. So it means that if you're able to plan ahead how much is your average or the minimum you're gonna use, go for capacity storage, because you're gonna be saving here $33.5, which is quite a lot. It's almost half, isn't it? So it's a very good deal if you can plan. And what happens with the overconsumption? If you overconsume, usually you're charged by then on the on-demand storage, but you saved on the previous planned storage, which is already awesome. And if you underuse your capacity storage, your planned capacity storage, basically you pay it. You pay how much you planned. So there is no, you don't get it back. Okay, so this is just to let you know. And what else do we have here? I like this example, this page here under understanding overall cost of Snowflake. On the bottom, on the middle of the page, there is a total cost example. And I think here is where you should read more carefully and understand a bit better. There is nothing much more of what we haven't talked, but for example, there are requirements for a company. So the company uses Start Edition, they plan to use 65 TB, okay, and of compressed data compared to the 325 of uncompressed data, okay. The loads are usually 24/7, every day, 24 hours, right? Enable 7 finance user workers to work 5 days a week from 8 to 5, okay, in a large standard virtual warehouse. So you are planning the virtual warehouse, the amount of people that might be querying that every day, and another sales user that we're gonna use 16 hours a day, 5 days a week in a medium standard warehouse. And yeah, some of the reports they're gonna use a 2XL standard warehouse. And then here he creates a table with the composition, do the calculations. This is something that you can copy and do for your case. If you want to build your Snowflake business case, you can use that, okay. And then here in the bottom he has an estimated cost for it, okay. And yep, there you go. You're able to understand the costs, to break down the costs, and to plan ahead the costs for your Snowflake implementation.